Hello, good morning everyone, and thank you for joining our Actifio webinar today. So we are joined here by Andy Slater, who will be going through the webinar with you shortly.
So thank you very much for the invitation to talk today. A few things I wanted to go through really are around the impact that Actifio are having in the market today, why they exist in the market, and some of the issues that I think customers are facing with regard to how they manage their data. So I think if we start this by saying the key things that we would see in the data center today are really based around how we would manage a number of processes regarding production data. So as you can see on this slide here, what we're trying to represent here is that production data is created across multiple applications, multiple compute sets, and we produce if you like, a lump of data that we would call production. Then what we do is we produce a number of processes that we've been running over the last few decades where we would take copies of that production data for a variety of reasons. The first and very simple reason operated by an ops team would be to run a backup software on a backup server with agents sat on the systems you wish to back up. You take a copy of that data, you run it down to a backup server, onto some disk, maybe onto some tape, and then modern conventional thought would be that you run that down to some form of dedupe storage technology to keep a longer term retention. And that would give you a form of backup. We can then turn that into disaster recovery. We'll take a copy of those backups and we will either ship them electronically or we'll physically pick up cartridges and take them to a secondary location. And that will satisfy auditors that we have a disaster recovery plan in place. We can then turn that into business continuity by further replicating that production data and sending it into a secondary location that enables us to provide an improved RTO in the event of failure. The other key area where we create copies of that data within the data management cycle is we have a development environment. And the head of development will run a team that basically has a fairly significant requirement on ops to provide the provisioning of compute, of storage, masking data, and then delivering working images up through and into the development environment. So we create multiple copies, both from an operational standpoint and also development. An IDC quote that around 60% of all enterprise storage belongs to developers and any activity that relates to development. So effectively what I'm saying here is we spend too much time, spend too much money on software and hardware creating copies of fundamentally the same data set, and we take those copies really for one reason and one reason only, and that is to be able to provision a copy of production data for any given use case. So what we're seeing that's happening as a result here is that not only do we have an operations team that uses a number of tools, if you like, to provide backup and DR, etc. My personal background is I ran a business prior to joining Actifio that was based upon selling and providing IBM technology stacks. And for me to deliver this type of disaster recovery or data protection environment using a single vendor, I would use technologies like Tivoli Storage Manager, TPC for data. I'd then use Tivoli Storage Manager for flash copy to manage the snapshots that I'd run on my IBM V7000. I'd then buy another V7000. I'd replicate between the two of them. I'd then buy Protected, or if I didn't buy IBM, I'd run Data Domain to do dedupe copies for backup. And then I'd start allocating out a whole bunch of my production storage into the development environment and allowing developers to go off and create development environments of their own volition. And that fundamentally means that the growth of data and actually the use of data has absolutely gone rogue. We have no control because of the tools we use of how much data we're creating in the world. So if we look at how the industry has grown, before I go on to sort of how Actifio can resolve some of those issues, I want you to think in terms of virtualization. I think that the common process now in the industry is that if we were building a data center blueprint, we would not go out and buy 200, 300 physical servers and rack them and power and cool them. We would absolutely buy 1/10 of that, put ESX on them or in a similar technology, and then run a virtualized compute stack. And the thinking behind that is very simple. It's about reducing the compute architectural footprint, and by default reducing power, and then reducing cost, reducing complexity, and driving absolute flexibility into the architecture. The other key thing it offers is an ability to improve the quality of service. So whether you are a service provider to an external world of customers, or you are a service provider from an IT perspective delivering back into your own organization, there is no question that the ability to commoditize around the compute architecture has driven significant cost savings and improved quality of service. The final part, or the next stage here, is really around network virtualization. So we continue the story in the data center. It's about convergence. It's about commoditizing the stack. We then start to commoditize storage. So we've seen the advent of virtualized storage architectures. And really the final piece is from Actifio. And what we're saying here is if you can virtualize the data, you start to create all of the benefits and savings you've seen in these other arenas, you'll drive into the data stack as well. So copy data virtualization is fundamentally very simple, and the process is that you would not impact your production environment. You will still create applications, you will still create data associated with those applications, and you create your production storage footprint, or your production data footprint, should I say, sat on your production storage. What we then do is we then deploy a version of Actifio into the client environment. Whether that be delivered as a service from a service provider like BIOS, or you're delivering it as a self-managed environment, so on-premise. We deliver the Actifio platform. Actifio is a software architecture that will be delivered either onto a virtual compute environment, so you would allocate it some storage, some memory and some compute. Alternatively, you can have it delivered as a physical appliance, and we allocate that some storage. On day one, what happens is we take a copy of the production data, and then we can do a number of things with it. We take a copy, and then we can turn that into a backup. We can copy that backup into a second location for DR using dedupe. We can then we can replicate that technology and drive it out for a business continuity perspective. Using that same copy that we took, we can then start to take images. We can mask them and manage the entire workflow end to end, and start to drive out development and testing images. So the concept here is take one copy of production to be able to drive the service and the provisioning of data for any given use case. So if you transpose that slide now back to the original one, what I'm saying here is we can use one technology to drive all of those uses around data. And what that really does is do a number of things. Going back to, I think, if I was sat in the role of a CIO, I'd have some fairly high-level but simplistic requirements around IT. The first being I want to reduce cost. And that's normally driven by the board. The second, I'm looking to be able to improve the quality of service to the user community. And the third is to drive complexity out of my infrastructure. And the way to do that is to, again, replicate perhaps the story that VMware have driven into the market, and that is by virtualizing, we achieve all of those things. So Actifio here is offering a single platform that would enable you to achieve all of those tasks. So the concept at a high level behind this is that Actifio captures production data in its native format. It captures it at a 4K block level, and we take a golden copy on day one. Once we've captured that application data and it's captured in an application consistent manner, whether it be physical or virtual, we then keep a physical golden copy of your production environment. We keep that current by taking frequent snapshots throughout the day based upon the SLAs that you as the client would require. And then from that point, what we're able to do is then use that golden copy to do a number of things. The first thing is we can schedule via an SLA engine. We can schedule a nightly backup, or we can do that more frequently throughout the day. That backup is a dedupe backup job that would be stored locally at the client premise or at the production premise. What we then do is we take a copy of that dedupe backup and we ship it in a globally deduped and compressed state into a secondary location, and we can house that for DR. We can also fully rehydrate that data as it hits the secondary location and keep a working image so that we're able to then deliver to you a business continuity based solution. So drive a very, very aggressive RTO and a very aggressive RPO. In terms of the data protection piece, one of the key aspects of this technology is that in terms of data provisioning or restoration, as you would perhaps have called it in the past, we're able to provision data, such as, for example, a 30 gigabyte virtual machine image, all the way through to a 10 terabyte Oracle database in a matter of minutes. An example of that, one of the world's largest banks acquired this technology purely to be able to deliver development environments in a more efficient manner. For them to be able to deliver a fully masked working production-based image for development would take them anything from 21 to 28 days. That process in its entirety to deliver fully masked and obfuscated data was taken down to 12 hours using Actifio. So the key here is that Actifio is the first platform that enables us to deliver not only data protection but full lifecycle management within the development cycle as well. So the areas that we focus on with this, the first thing is it enables us to provide a technology that enables you to manage your data. And what I mean by that is that there is a significant migration or movement towards being able to use cloud-based architectures. And one of the things that this enables you to do is to migrate data in and out of the cloud and be able to use the Actifio platform within those cloud architectures as well. So for example, within Google and AWS today, you can spin Actifio up and you can run development environments using us as the delivery mechanism within the AWS architecture. As far as access to your data is concerned, what we're really talking about here is giving developers the ability to self-serve, almost instantaneous access to data for development purposes. Okay, and what I mean by that is delivering virtual images. So this enables us to reduce the storage footprint that is consumed within the development world by between anything from 50 to 75%. And again, the large bank I'm talking about made a significant investment, and that investment was driving a $256 million saving over 3 years. The other key area here is really around modernizing, or perhaps more importantly, simplifying the architectural footprint that you use to provide data protection in the environment. So the net impact of that to the world today is we measure the access to data in seconds and minutes at maximum. This cost savings by driving this infrastructure collapse and driving in this simplicity simplified architectural footprint means we can drive significant cost saving. And again, collapsing from multiple architectures and in tools into one platform by its very nature should simplify the operational content. So if we look at the next couple of slides, these are they're quite generic, but it's really just to give you an example of how we engage as an organization, because the key here is people don't invest, our belief is people don't invest in technology just for technology's sake, okay? It truly has to deliver some real business value to an organization. So we have a separate consulting business called Blackthorn, and we engage them specifically to work with clients around what is the true value of this transformation play within IT, because this isn't just about buying a backup tool or a DevOps tool or a dedupe tool. This is about buying a platform that will drive true business transformation. And where the savings come from are both hard and soft, and I think the hard ones are the easiest perhaps to define on the basis that we significantly reduce the spinning disk footprint. We can reduce the amount of licensing and effort that is expended on backup and DR, and we reduce the power consumption in that space as well. In terms of soft savings on the other side of this scale is really around reduction in DevOps time. The bank that I've been describing, we bought back about 28% of their developers' time, and that was a significant cost saving. Hugely reduced risk around running development cycles as well. So if we look at the hard impacts, I won't spend too much time on this because I recognize there's a lot of words here, but the key thing here is we're able to eliminate non-production copies of data from your production storage. What that does is give a significant avoidance around growth and cost for additional storage. So make the life of your existing storage extend. Avoid maintenance on that additional storage, eliminate software costs based upon the software that you would buy to not only run backups, but you would buy additional software for snapshots on storage arrays, for cloning on storage arrays, for replication between storage arrays. All of that can be collapsed into this single architecture. In terms of what we're talking here from an efficiency perspective, this really is about performance in terms of time to market. It's about driving the speed by which we can get data to the development organization so they can start driving their dev cycles and refresh cycles more aggressively. So some examples of where our technology has been used. This is a global mining company. They're currently in around 31 countries. I think the key thing here is they were running a fairly standard backup architecture, tape libraries and storage devices and software, etc. By deploying Actifio, they were able to drive recovery to 420 times faster, and for me that's the highlight of the solution there. This software as a service organization, this is interesting because we actually ran out some analysis for them post the deployment of the technology to really try and define exactly where the benefits were from using this technology. But for me here, what's interesting is simplicity was a massive play. So they were running 6 different technologies to be able to protect their data. Okay. And by simplifying it and collapsing it into a single architecture around the Actifio footprint, not only were we able to significantly improve their RPO, but the RTO was dramatically improved. Okay, and then obviously we were able to drive significant cost savings, as you can see from the slide deck there. Talking about a slightly larger customer here, so they were using 10 technologies from mainstream vendors. Okay. By utilizing this, we were able to do a number of things. Not only did we collapse the footprint around the data protection, but equally we were able to drive significant savings, as I described earlier, around the efficiencies for delivery and development and test. Okay, so as you can see there, they got a 68% faster time to market, eliminating over 2,000 hours of development time. As far as the technology is concerned, it's a heavily patented technology. Actifio have been in the market for I think just over 6 years now. Personally, I've been with the company for 5 years, and we're seeing a huge adoption of this technology now based upon the footprint that we've gained. We actually have in excess of 1,000 customers utilizing this technology. Some of those are direct, and then we have many customers that we touch by virtue of some of the largest cloud providers globally now utilize this architecture for delivering services both to their co-located customers and customers they host in their clouds, but equally delivering I guess what we would term as X as a service type propositions around backup and DR and DevOps. We're a global company. We're based, I think, currently in about 31, maybe 32 countries with support services based around the globe. You may or may not have seen some of the industry analysts, some of the commentary around Actifio. I think one of the biggest things there is we were giving estimated valuations against our business based upon funding, etc., of in excess of $1 billion last year, and really that's been driven by customer adoption. The Actifio, the platform has been designed to really fix a very specific problem in the data center around creating too many copies using multiple technologies. So I think in summary, data is, and this is, some of these statements may be fairly obvious, but fundamentally data is the key to everything, okay? But the challenge we have with data is we're creating copy after copy after copy, and we talk about growth, we talk about data growth as if it's just expected. The reality is that production data in many cases is growing linearly. The thing that's driving exponential growth is our inability in this industry to be able to manage how many copies and what we create to start, but then how we store those copies. So a great example would be in the world of development, we might use snapshot technology to create copies for that. Then what we do is we then use our backup technology to actually take copies of the copies. And so we create this huge footprint of data. Actifio is the first and only enterprise class platform available in the market today to enable you to capture data and then manage it and manage the life cycle and use that same image of data for all the use cases I've described. I think the key thing here as I go back to the beginning is to talk about virtualization. The concept of virtualization is the decoupling of the application data from the infrastructure. So what that really means is you're able to then manage around the three key areas that I spoke of, and that is around delivering an improved quality of service for access to data, significantly reducing cost and driving massive simplicity into the architecture, because complexity is ultimately the thing that drives cost. And again, this is really around the development piece, and that's enabling you to enable your business fundamentally to move more quickly, to develop applications faster, to get time to market improvements. And by doing all of that, and whilst doing all of that, significantly improve the operational capabilities of the organization around data availability. That speaks for itself, really. So, so that's it. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take those now. And thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Andy. Okay, so yeah, if you do have any questions, there's a questions box just at the right-hand side of your screen. Just pop those in there and I'll read those out for Andy. Okay, so we have a question here from Paul, who's asked, how does the technology integrate with the cloud, e.g. AWS?
Okay, so in AWS, you can go, there's two ways. You can go to AWS Marketplace and you can actually purchase Actifio as a pre-templated architecture. If you are, on the other hand, a customer that currently uses AWS for development, for example, you'll already have compute and templates in place working there. You can then purchase Actifio and spin ours up as a template inside of that environment and use us to deliver images for development, or to indeed act as a backup and DR tool as well. You can use us to take data and push it up into AWS, and you can also use us to bring data back out of AWS. Hopefully that answers the question.
Okay, thanks, Andy. So I think that's all the questions we have today. So thanks, Andy, for presenting, and thank you everyone for joining the webinar. As mentioned previously, a critique form will pop up at the end, so if you would like any more information or a follow-up call from Bytes, please pop that in there and we will be in contact with you. So thanks again everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.